Hello world, and welcome to the next part of the tutorial. And today what we are going to be doing is we are going to be creating the HUD. HUD just stands for a heads up display, so that we can use it to display stuff like the health. And for example, let's say apart from the player health, we also want to display like maybe bullet. And so that for that we are going to be using the HUD. And so we are going to be discussing some basic nodes that we use when creating the HUD in our games. But first of all, let's go ahead and fix some problems relating to the player scene and the enemy scene. So first of all, let's go to the player scene, and what I actually want to do here is ensure that everything is probably set, correctly set. For starters, um, there are a lot of errors going on in here. So I know what you might think that maybe what is the error. So first of all, let's go ahead and still run the same game again with no modification whatsoever. So this is exactly where we left the previous part of the tutorial. And let's say I shoot uh, the enemy, and we can already see that right now that there are a lot of problems here. Okay, first of all, if I believe the game fashion that you already have is probably uh, the enemy are not shooting these green bullets. So let's fix that quickly. And so how we get the enemy to be shooting the green bullet is by going to the sprite over here. This is actually a feature of the sprite 2D node, and that is it can take it can take a sprite sheet. Sprite sheet just contain more than a single sprite, so in a single image, but the image contains not just a single sprite, so we have many sprites. As you can see in this sprite sheet, we have the player bullet, which is the red over here, and we have the enemy bullet, which is the green over here. And so this is where we left on the last part of the tutorial, but we've already specified that on the horizontal frames we have this frame 1, this is frame 2, and on the vertical frames, which is up and down over here, you already see that we have only a single frame. And so this is what we specify in the H frames and the P frames. But if we want to cycle through the frames in our sprite, we have to change this frame property over here. So you can easily click this up arrow over here to increase or increment it by 1, and this down arrow to decrease or decrement it by 1. Or you can just click the value and just enter a new value. And so we want to set the value of the frame to 1, so let's go ahead and do that. And sorry, let's go to the main. So I just click run current scene. And so now you should get this fashion. And the problem I actually want to enunciate about is well, first of all, we already see that if we shoot the enemy are not dying. If the enemy shoot us, nothing is happening. But what I want to enunciate about is if we actually want the auto shooting to be shooting the closest enemy. And so you can already see this is the enemy I'm close to, but I'm shooting another enemy. I'm not shooting the correct enemy, and so that is the problem I want to shed some light on. So now we are going to do those three. First of all, if the player shoots the enemies, we want the enemy to actually die. And when the enemy shoots the player, Actually, we don't want the player to die immediately. We want to give some players some health, so, and we will discuss about that later. And thirdly, we want to be shooting the closest enemy. So we don't want to just be shooting random enemies. And so let's fix that as quick as possible. And if we fix that as quick as possible, we are going to get back onto our HUD, which the tutorial is actually about. And so let's first of all go to the enemy bullet. No, we are not. We don't. Let's first go to the player bullet. So this is the player bullet. Well, first of all, we want to discuss something about signals. And so, well, this area 2D has what we know as an area, and this area is basically defined by this collation shape that we define over here. So this is the area of our player bullet. So we can enlarge it. We can obviously choose whatever we want that area to be, but it has nothing to do with the sprite 2D. So remove the sprite 2D over here. This is still the area of our player bullet, and so sprite 2D is just there for just visual representation of whatever it is we are representing. And so we are going to do, well, first of all, this is the player bullet, so the area should be a little bit large. So we want to give the player who is going to play our game that feeling of control, and okay, we are shooting the enemies, and we are realizing that okay, we are killing them actually. So, and this is why we are actually expanding the position shape over here, and I think this looks good. And now we actually want to detect when this area, don't forget, by saying area, the area is actually defined by this collation shape 2D. This you can already see the future representation. So we want to detect when this area enters this enemy scene. So let's say it is from here. So we want to detect that okay, we are actually hitting the enemy, and when this happens, we want to perform an action, and that action will be to remove the player bullet from the scene, because obviously it has performed its function, and to actually kill that enemy, which can be done by just removing the enemy also from the scene. And so how do we go about this? Well, to go about this, let's go to player bullet and let's discuss something about signals. And signals is basically what gets fired when an event happened. And in our case, events will be the player bullet, the player bullet entering into the enemy area. So that is an event because it is entering a new area. When it leaves the area also is an event. When it enters the tree, and even we can already notice that this ready function is like an event, because when a node get added to the sentry, the ready function gets called. So that is an example of an event. When something happens, we do something. In our case, when the player bullet reaches the enemy area, we want to do something. And so this is where we get a lot of signals, and you can mouse over all these signals to get a basic idea of what the signals is about. And the signals we are looking for is this area entered. We want to get we want to we want to know when this player bullet enters a new area. So this is basically what happened with the area entered signals over here. So let's mouse over it. You can already see uh, emitted when the received area enters this area. Emitted is just the word used for called. So you can use called, you can use emitted, it's the same thing. And you can already see that the description says that emitted when the received area enters this area. So the received area is the area that is incoming, which is the enemy, the enemy area. Don't forget the enemy is also an area 2D, and this is one of the extended functionality of area 2D. Don't forget, uh, nodes have all this pre-built functionality. Although we can extend them using scripts, using JavaScript. So now let's go over here, and to connect this area with our script, we can double click it, and you get this sub window, and this little prompt over here uh, is asking us to connect this signal to our script. And so you can easily go ahead and click the connect over here, or you can, if you've already defined the function that you want to connect with this signal, you can just click the pick over here, and you can pick that signal from the drop down that is going to show over here. And if you are not seeing that function that you defined, you can disable this script method only, or compatible methods only. I think don't disable this script methods only, just disable this compatible methods only, and you should be good to go. But in this tutorial, we are not, or we don't have a function created already. So, and we can easily create that function here, but let's leave it as on area entered. And so let's click on connect, so that we can connect the fence with this new function. And so first of all, what you are going to do is you are going to check if the area that I will get is actually in the group of enemies, and where was this area coming from. You can already see that we are getting that area variable over here. So it's getting passed to the emitted function. And so to check this out, you might just print that area, the area group, area dot is get, I think it is get group something. So you can go ahead and try this out, but you already know what is going to get print out. So I'm going to create an if check. If area dot is in group, don't forget the name of the enemies, it must matches uh, what we define, which is enemies over here. If you are not sure if you are going to get it right, you can just right click the group and just, I think if you click rename over here, you can just copy it, or using the control Z and just paste it with control V, or you can just click over here to copy it. So what we're going to do is we are going to first of all, no, we are not actually going to first of all delete the player bullet. This is something I actually want to discuss about. If we want to perform a function or anything by this player bullet script, but we've already delete the player bullets from the sentry, that function might not get called, and you are going to run into some problems. So first of all, what you are going to do is to delete that area. which is the enemy, and we do that by just calling the queue free for method. And what this does is that it removes it from the sentry. I'm going to discuss about this sentry later, but right now we are using this line of code to delete the enemies, any area that we entered, that the player bullet entered, sorry, with this group of enemies. We are going to be deleting that area. And now, after deleting that area, don't forget we still have to remove the player bullet. So let's do that. So to do that, we can just call the queue-free method. Sorry, let's call it queue-free, and everything should work perfectly. But don't forget, we still need the enemy bullet also. So enemy bullets signals, I believe we've already discussed about this. If it entered an area, but this time I'm going to check if what group do we assign the player. I believe that should be player. So, and it's a good thing to always check to confirm if you are getting that the group uh, that you assigned right. And so when this happens, we are not going to actually delete the player from the scene, and so we don't want that at all. So what we actually want is that we want to decrease the player rate. So, but first of all, let's go to the player script to see if there's any variable with health. No, 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 no. So let's go ahead and create a variable called health. The reason why we are not naming this player health is that well, it's already a player script, so it belongs to the player. So we don't need to like name this player health. That is very, very not necessary. Although if you think you might confuse this health with something else, you might name it player health. Although I don't recommend it, because you can already see that we are opening a file named player.gd. So definitely this belongs to the player scene. And so the player blades over here. uh, let's go to the enemy blades, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to reduce the health by, I think, 10 is okay. And after that, you're actually going to delete the enemy bullet. And so it's a good thing to check, because don't forget we've only done two things before moving on to the HUD, and it remains one thing actually. So, but first of all, let us check if what you actually fix is working correctly and as we intended. So okay, so let's go ahead and, well, oh, goodbye. And okay, this is also a mistake that I actually want to discuss about. Let's say I've killed all the enemy, there is no enemy in the scene now, and let's say I go ahead and shoot. Okay, there's another one. Go ahead and see that I go ahead and just shoot, and look at what will happen. Okay, there's another enemy. Let's shoot it. Goodbye, and let's shoot. We're going to get into an error, and we are going to fix this very soon. We are going to fix this very soon. But first of all, let's fix that third error, that if we have too many enemies in the scene, we actually want to be shooting the one closest to us. So first of all, it's a good thing to avoid repeating yourselves in code. And if you realize that you are calling, like you are getting some values repeatedly, it's a good idea to it, and it's a very wise idea to store such value into a variable so that you only need to use the variable in your code. And that's what we are going to do. We're going to create a variable for, well, target enemy. Don't forget this target enemy. This little code there is actually what we are using to shoot the enemy. And there is a problem with the code, and that's what we want to fix right now. And so we can just change this to target enemy. And also we don't need this code anymore. This get tree dot get first node in tree. We don't need all that. And let's just go ahead and replace it with the value target enemy. And so what we actually want to do is this: to get the closest enemy to the player. This is what we are going to do. We are going to actually look through all the enemy. We are going to check their distance to the player, and we are going to check uh which one has the closest distance, the smallest distance to the player. I know this might be a lot of taking if you are not very the into all this programming stuff, but it's the idea is very easy, because what you're actually doing is that we are just getting the distance of uh every enemies and every enemy, and what you're doing is we are comparing it with the previous enemy, and basically that's what the code is about, and we are going to compare them together. And so the result that we get is this will let us know which enemy is closest to the player, and that is what we want. So let's go ahead and I'm going to create a for loop. So this is going to loop through all the enemies. And so what do you want to do? Well, for starters, I'm going to call this if. Don't forget, we already have this first one to begin with, this the first enemy. So we are going to call this function if target enemy does distance to. Okay, don't forget, you don't just want to be calling the distance to. Sorry, I mistake. And don't forget, always use global position. Global position to the oh, sorry, does distance to. So this is going to return the distance to the player position. What we're going to do is if it is less or if it is greater, um well, we're actually going to be using greater. Sorry, I uh, I was thinking about something when I was writing it, but I think this should work perfectly as we wanted. uh, Global position, and what we want to do is uh, to like to add line breaks to your code. You can click alt Z. So, and now what we're going to do is we're going to make the target enemy to equal to I. Don't forget, I is just maybe let's not use I as a variable name. Let's just use enemy, but let's append it with underscore. So let's go ahead and change this also, and this also. And so I think we are good to go. Yeah, I think we're good to go. Okay, let's go ahead and test this thing. I just realized this tutorial is getting long, and we might have to discuss about the HUD in the next part of the tutorial. And I'm very very sorry about this. I'm really sorry about this. Okay, which of them is closer? Which of them is closer? Which of them is closer? Going to be okay. You are closer to me, and you are closer to me, and of course, you are closer to me. Closer. And so this is it for the tutorial. Um, I'm going to be adding all the scores, the health, and the bullets in the next part of the tutorial. I believe this little side tutorial has been quite helpful. If it does, please hit the like and the subscribe button, and I'll see you in the next part of the tutorial. Thank you, and bye. Oh gosh.